how the US is quietly erasing its debt. Have you ever looked at the US national debt? That number $35 trillion. It just feels unreal, doesn't it? It's so big it almost loses its meaning. And it's only getting bigger. For years we were told not to worry about it. As long as the economy was growing, the debt was manageable. Deficits were just a theoretical problem. Some even said the government just owed the money to itself. But that's all changing. Not because of politics, but because of simple math. The debt isn't just a number on a screen anymore. It's becoming active. It's starting to consume the very system that created it, and the consequences are becoming impossible to ignore. This isn't theoretical anymore. It's happening right now. Stick around to find out what this means for you. The moment the math broke. Did you know something just happened in the United States for the first time in modern history? America is now spending more money on interest payments for its debt than on its entire national defense budget. Just let that sink in. We're spending more to service the past than to secure our future. These interest payments are rocketing towards $1 trillion every single year. And here's the kicker. This isn't optional spending. It can't be negotiated away. It can't be pushed down the road. It has to be paid first, before anything else. This is a massive turning point. Because when interest becomes one of the biggest items in the budget, the national debt stops being just a big, scary number. It becomes a very real constraint on everything we do. What do you think this means for the future? Why governments cannot fix debt like households? When you or I get into too much debt, we have to cut back. We spend less, maybe cancel a few subscriptions, and tighten our belts until things get better. It's painful, but it's what you do. But what about the US government? Can it do the same? The short answer is no. A huge chunk of federal spending is mandatory, locked in by law. Think Social Security and Medicare. These aren't just budget lines. They're promises made to millions of Americans, especially an aging population. Breaking these promises isn't an economic problem, it's a political impossibility. So, if spending can't be cut, what's left? Borrowing. The government has to issue new debt just to pay the interest on its old debt. This creates a dangerous loop. More borrowing leads to more debt, which means higher interest payments, which requires even more borrowing. It's a compounding cycle, and compounding is absolutely ruthless. The 3 ways sovereign debt has ever been resolved. Ever wondered how massive government debts just disappear? Historically, countries have only 3 ways out: austerity, default, or inflation. Let's look at the United States. Austerity. That would mean huge tax hikes or slashing spending on things like Social Security and the military. Politically, that's a non-starter. It would cause an uproar. Okay, what about default? Just refusing to pay? Impossible. US Treasury bonds are the bedrock of the entire global financial system. Banks, pensions, international trade, it all relies on them. A US default would trigger a worldwide financial meltdown, freezing credit everywhere. So, if austerity is off the table and default is unthinkable, what's left? That leaves only one path. The same one history shows that great powers eventually take: inflation. It's the slow, quiet way to reduce the real value of debt over time. The soft default. Have you ever wondered how a government with trillions of dollars in debt plans to pay it all back? Well, what if they don't have to? At least not in the way you think. Instead of outright refusing to pay, there's a quieter method: paying it back with weaker money. Here's how it works. The government returns every single dollar it owes. But here's the catch. Each of those dollars buys less than it used to. This is inflation, and it's not some accident. It's often the path of least resistance. Think about it. If inflation runs higher than the interest rates on the debt, the real value of that debt shrinks over time. If a country owes $30 trillion and inflation is at 5%, that debt's real burden decreases by over $1 trillion in just a single year. No new taxes, no painful spending cuts. Just time and the power of compounding. It's a silent solution, happening right under our noses. Fiscal dominance has already arrived. For decades, we thought of the Federal Reserve as this independent guardian, always ready to fight inflation no matter how tough it got. But things have changed. That era might be over. Why? The sheer size of government debt. The debt load is now so enormous that the Fed can't just jack up interest rates like it used to. If rates went into the double digits, the interest payments on the national debt could actually swallow up all the tax revenue the government collects. The whole system would be at risk. So, what's the solution? It seems like a little more inflation is being tolerated. Interest rates are being kept lower than they normally would be in this kind of economic climate. This isn't just a theory. It's a phenomenon called fiscal dominance. Essentially, that government's need to manage its debt is now influencing monetary policy more than ever. The numbers tell the story. How the system forces demand for government debt. Ever wonder how the government can borrow so much money without interest rates going through the roof? It's a fascinating setup. Normally, if someone has a lot of debt, you'd ask for a higher interest rate to lend them money, right? It's just common sense, more risk, more reward. But that's not what happens with US Treasury securities. So, what's the secret? The system creates what you could call captive buyers. Think about big institutions like banks, pension funds, and insurance companies. Regulations require them to hold a certain amount of US government bonds. These bonds are labeled as high-quality liquid assets. It's not necessarily because they're the most profitable investment, but because holding them is mandatory. This creates a huge artificial demand for government debt. It allows the government to borrow money at much lower rates than you'd expect. So, the borrowing is cheap not because the risk is zero, but because the rules of the game pretty much force major players to buy in. Inflation is not measured neutrally. Have you ever felt like your bills are going up way faster than the official inflation rate? You're not imagining things? Many government programs, like Social Security adjustments, depend on these official numbers. This creates a huge incentive for the government to report lower inflation. Over the years, the way they calculate it has changed quite a bit. They make substitution adjustments, assuming you'll buy chicken instead of beef if beef gets too expensive. They make quality adjustments, saying your new phone is better, so the price increase doesn't fully count. They even change what's in the basket of goods. They measure the result. The official cost of living number goes up much slower than your actual expenses. This means smaller payout increases for you and a quiet transfer of wealth from your pocket to the state, something everyone should be aware of. The role of the central bank. Ever wondered what happens when big foreign buyers, like China or Japan, decide to buy less US debt? Who picks up the slack? The answer might surprise you. It's the Federal Reserve itself. When demand for US government bonds drops, the Fed often steps in and starts buying them. This process is called quantitative easing, or QE. By buying these bonds, the Fed keeps interest rates, or yields, artificially low. But here's the catch. To buy these bonds, the Fed essentially prints new money, expanding the money supply. This flood of new dollars has to go somewhere. It flows into assets, pushing up the prices of stocks and real estate. Your portfolio might look great, but there's a hidden cost. With more dollars chasing the same amount of goods and services, the value of each dollar you hold goes down. Your purchasing power erodes. So while it might feel like a boost to the economy, it's really a dilution of your wealth. This isn't stimulus. It's a subtle tax on your savings. Think about that next time you hear about QE. Who wins and who loses? Have you ever wondered why the gap between the rich and the poor seems to keep getting wider? It's not just about hard work or even greed. A big part of the story is how new money actually enters our economy. Think of it like this. When new money is created, it doesn't just appear in everyone's bank account at the same time. Instead, it flows into the system through big financial institutions first. These institutions and those closest to them get to use this new money before it circulates widely. They buy up assets like stocks and real estate, pushing their prices up. By the time this new money trickles down to the rest of us in the form of wages, the prices of everything have already gone up. So, our purchasing power has actually decreased. This is the mechanical reason behind rising inequality. It's built into the system. Why saving no longer works. Have you ever thought about why traditional saving might not be making you richer? We're always told to save our money, put it in a bank, maybe buy some bonds. The idea is that this money will grow or at least hold its value for the future. But what if I told you that in today's world, simply saving your cash could mean you're actually losing money? It sounds crazy, right? But think about it. When inflation is higher than the interest rate you get from your bank account, your money's purchasing power is shrinking every single day. That $100 you saved last year, it buys less today. Even bonds, once considered a safe haven, can lose value in real terms. To truly preserve and grow your wealth, taking on some level of calculated risk has become almost a necessity. This isn't investment advice, but a look at the structural reality we're all facing. The end game of control. Ever wonder why physical cash still exists? It's not just for nostalgia. When you hold cash, you have a physical asset outside the banking system. It's your exit ramp. But what happens when that exit disappears? Imagine a fully digital dollar. This isn't just about convenience, it's about control. A digital currency could allow for direct manipulation of your money. Think negative interest rates, where your balance shrinks over time just for holding it. Or money with an expiration date, forcing you to spend it. This programmable money isn't some far-off sci-fi concept. It's already being tested in other countries. It represents the ultimate tool to manage national debt by controlling how, when, and if you can save. This shift from physical to digital isn't just an upgrade. It's a fundamental change in the nature of money itself. What are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comments. The verdict. Ever wondered what happens with all that government debt? Will the US just default one day? The answer is probably not. History shows us a different path, one that's a lot more subtle. Instead of defaulting, nations inflate. They slowly, almost invisibly, erase the real value of what they owe. Think about it. The debt number on the books stays the same, but the money it represents buys less and less each year. So, who pays the price? The burden shifts. It moves away from the government and onto savers, onto anyone holding cash. Your savings account might look the same, but its purchasing power is shrinking. This isn't some wild theory. It's a pattern repeated throughout history, now just happening with modern financial tools. It's a quiet transfer of wealth, and understanding it is key to protecting your financial future. Final perspective. I've ever wondered what happens to all that massive government debt. Does it just vanish? The truth is, debt is never eliminated. It's just redistributed. The government isn't magically erasing the debt, it's erasing the value of your money. And it happens quietly, legally, and predictably through inflation. Think about it. The money you saved 10 years ago buys you a lot less today. That's not an accident. It's a mechanism. The people who understand this system adjust their strategies. They invest in assets that hold value, like real estate or stocks, to protect themselves. But those who don't understand, they're the ones left paying the bill without even realizing it. Their savings shrink, and their purchasing power disappears. So, the real question is, are you adjusting, or are you paying? Understanding this is the first step to financial security. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more insights.